Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to the Cup of Curious podcast with Will, where we talk pop culture, music, movies, faith, and more. So grab your favorite overpriced caffeinated drink and join the conversation. This is the Cup of Curious podcast. You're on, Will.
Hey, what's going on, family? It's your boy Will, and welcome back to the Cup of Curious podcast. And this is another one of those late night recordings, which I probably shouldn't be telling you. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm cooking for the week. You know, I'm trying to eat healthy, try to eat clean Monday to Friday. And on the weekends, I give myself a little liberty. But this is how this typically works. I usually start thinking about what I'm going to write, what I'm going to say in the podcast or talk about on Monday. And by Wednesday, Thursday, I officially announce it through the Cup of Curious podcast Instagram. And then on Saturday, I record. So that way I have time on Sunday, after church and wherever else I may do or may go, I come home and I can just, edit it for YouTube, and fingers crossed it may be coming up on other streaming platforms soon. But that's usually how it goes. But this is one of those situations where I was busy and admittedly lazy. So I have to do this late night recording at around 1:40 a.m. so you guys can get it at 7 a.m. But que será, that's how it is. But in today's episode, we're talking about something that's it's actually really cool, but at the same time, it makes me think of something very sobering. So if you've been, or if you're a movie buff, or if you've been paying attention to a lot of upcoming movies for 2020, one of the bigger ones that was announced was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which excited a lot of people. Obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog was a big thing in the 90s. When the Sega Genesis came out, probably one of the bigger competitions for Nintendo. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Sonic, but I most definitely played the game. And I'm going to be very, very honest with you guys. I probably didn't beat Sonic the Hedgehog until probably last year. Because I have a compilation, I have a compilation game where it's a whole bunch of Sega games, and all the Sonic games are in there. So I decided to play it, and because this game has a save feature, which I don't think the Genesis had, I was able to save and progress and beat Sonic at the age of 31. But that's not something I'm too proud to say. But anyway, Sonic had a lot of variations, throughout the years, a lot of adaptations, I should say. He's had his cartoons, plenty of cartoons. Probably his most popular was the one in the 90s, which I think was called just Sonic Adventures or Sonic and Friends, something like that. And the anime Sonic X. And of course, all the video games. I don't know all the video games. The worst one I know is Sonic Unleashed, when he becomes that werewolf, and I know that because I have that game. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware. But talks about a Sonic movie was going on for years, and we finally got the trailer a couple of months back. And if you were around YouTube or on the internet when this happened, there was so much backlash. People were roasting Sonic, and they made memes because of the design. And to be fair, the design was trash. I mean, it looked like a man in a Sonic the Hedgehog costume with an oversized head. They gave Sonic human teeth. His eyes were too small. I mean, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And obviously, this movie is, targeted towards a younger audience. Because if you don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog has a crazy fan base. Like, after all these years, Sonic has probably one of the most dedicated fans in fandom, to be honest. And like any other fandom, they can have their quirks, and they can have their dark sides, and the some weird stuff in that fandom. But people were very excited for the movie and very disappointed by the results. In turn, the complaint got to the people at Paramount who's distributing this film, and there's also 6 production companies in this movie. They paid attention. They paid attention to the fans, and In turn, they redesigned Sonic, which shook a lot of people. Because normally when something, especially like a movie this big, quote unquote big, is happening, typically the attitude is, hey, we're making this whether you like it or not, and it's going to stay this way whether you like it or not. So it was very, very strange to know that a company, especially one as big as Paramount, I guess gave the people over at Sega and the other production companies a heads up saying, hey, we messed up, or y'all messed up, and we want you to fix the problem. To me, that was so strange, and it was so refreshing because it showed that they were paying attention. Everything from the design to the way the trailer was built out to even choosing Gangster's Paradise for the music. It was all very, very, very disconnected. And the new trailer came out recently with the new Sonic design to a massive, positive feedback from the fandom. As far as I know, it's overall been very positive. But as you know, just because a trailer is good doesn't necessarily mean a movie's going to be good. And to be completely honest, the trailer wasn't even all that great. Like, once the hype died down and you just really look at it, it's another one of those live action movies that's probably gonna get a lot of money but be critically panned. Because as we all know, there has yet to be really a successful video game movie. From your Super Mario Brothers to your Mortal Kombats to your G.I. Joes to Doom. I don't know why I thought of I think it's because The Rock is in both G.I. Joe and Doom. But Doom, there has yet to be really, they even have Battleship. I know Battleship is not a video game, but it's weird that there's a Battleship movie. But, I'm hopeful, because I really do like the way Sonic looks, and it does make me want to go and see this movie. There's a lot of movies coming out next year I want to see. Anyway, I'm kind of deviating from my point here. So, if you follow the podcast on Instagram, I said that while this is really good that this happened, it also brought a very sobering point. It's something that I sadly discovered. And this is what that is. I think it's tremendously sad that a company whose primary aim is to entertain people with their films or TV shows or whatever the case is, were able to listen to their audience and make a change. Now, I don't know if it's because of the hardcore fans and the nature of the whole matter of it's Sonic, and they're trying to make money off of it. But the fact is that they listened, which is something that's very rare for a huge company. And the reason I say it's sad is because we don't see that really much in any other place. We see so many people complaining about what's happening in our communities. I shouldn't say complaining. People are, lifting up their voices and having outcries of injustice and things that are happening within our communities. And to sit here and know that there's people who have the ability to do something, who have the ability, to some degree make a change, don't. They're just sitting in their offices, twiddling their thumbs, and when the issue does come, they do their little copy and paste answers. Oh, we understand the situation, XYZ, to nothing happening, to nothing really culminating at the end. And I understand that different issues take different amount of time, but if a freaking company who's producing this movie, this children's movie, to be frank, it was able to change a design of the main character because they listened to their people. What about the more serious issues that some governing officials may able to have some influence over and they don't do it? To me, it's ridiculous. It's like we have our priorities backwards. Because here's the thing. when it comes to animated films, because I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but one of my dreams, aspirations when I was younger was to be an animator. I would have loved to have gone to school and pursued a career in animation to, eventually work for Disney or Nickelodeon or ultimately myself. But that's besides the point. In animation, typically, a fully animated film, especially today, 3D cartoons, computer CGI films, they take roughly between 4 to 6 years, depending. For example, I think one of the most recognized films, Shrek, I think took 4 years. And I know it had to take a long time to make the Sonic film, and a lot of money is at that, because if I remember, I think the budget for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie for next year was between 90 and 120 million. A lot of money went into that movie. So again, I'm asking you to just think about it, because maybe I am overthinking, but I would love to hear your opinion. And I'm sorry if I'm stuttering a lot. It's because I'm tired, but I really want to get this podcast out, and I'm hoping I'm getting my message across without sounding too sloppy. Forgive me, family. But I want to hear your opinion on the matter. Do you think it's strange that a company aimed to entertain listened to their audience and made a change, but we can't get people in government offices, in politics, in justice, in these positions to make some sort of change when they're capable of doing so? And we can't? So we can make an outcry about a movie. Hey, that hedgehog don't look right. Well, we better change it. But we're not able to say, yo, we need some kind of help here in our community. We need, to somehow handle this homeless situation. Again, I'm from Philadelphia. We have a pretty bad one over here. We need some help over here with the drug epidemic. We need some help, housing these people. We need some help, with the gun control. And I know that there's some governing officials that can have some sort of influence and some sort of power to help, if not stop it, entirely, stop it a great deal, or at least take a huge chunk of that and chop it down. We have people that can do that. I know we do. But for some strange reason, we can't do it. And it bothers me. It gets under my skin. Because, like I said, even though I think this is an absolutely great thing what they did with Sonic, because the geek in me, really enjoyed what I saw, I sat back and I realized, but something's not right. How can we get this done by raising our voices, but we can't get other stuff done? And I know people are lifting their voices on certain, social justice matters, on certain racial matters. And we're asking for people to move in our behalf. People with position, people with power, people with influence, people with money who can make those changes. Because let's be honest here, touching back on the movie, if Paramount decided that they were going to keep that horrifying Sonic design, fans can make their version of it, and there is a YouTube video where a fan made improvements on the Sonic design before the companies themselves actually did it. But we don't have the power or money, to put that up in theaters. We don't own Sega, so we wouldn't have the right to do it anyway. So we know that they have the power to do it. So we voiced our complaints, we voiced our opinions, and I'm using we even though I personally didn't say a darn thing. I thought it was hilarious, but the point I'm trying to make is that the Sonic fans raised their voices because they know while they necessarily cannot do anything, they knew Paramount can, they knew Sega can, and the other 5 production companies can. You got the money, we don't got the money. You own the rights, we don't own the rights. So we're going to complain to you to make a change. Hear us out. And it's beautiful in the sense that, that's what happened. They listened, they understood, they made the change. But yeah, we can't get that here. It's so bizarre. again, it goes back to, I think, us having our priorities backwards. Because it's crazy to say that some of these people in important positions can take an example from Sonic the Hedgehog's fan base. It's so weird to say, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because it is weird. It is weird that, this little video game of a non-existent creature that's beloved by millions was able to create an influence, a change. But yet when we're out here and we hear these horrifying stories of these heartbreaking stories of kids getting shot, because for those of you not in the Philadelphia area, we have a real problem right now where kids are getting shot and hurt and even being killed by gun violence. Now, listen, I'm not here to get political, but I do personally believe that while guns are not... I really don't want to go here, but okay, put it this way. I don't think guns are the problem. It's people. I don't think guns are the problem, because we need, well, not everybody, but people, for example, police officers, they need it for their protection. If you have a license to carry, you're carrying it for your protection. The gun itself is not going to kill anybody. It's the person holding the gun, the intent. Are you going to use it to defend yourself, or are you going to use it to hurt other people? And even when you have the gun in your own hand, your main goal should be shoot to stop, not shoot to kill. And probably the most heartbreaking one, it was about the 10-year-old boy who apparently was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he got shot in the back of the head. I currently don't know the condition of that child, but since I mentioned it, I'm going to check really quickly, family. Just hold on with me for a second. And while I'm looking this up, I'm going to let you guys know that CupofCurious will be entering Season 2 in January 2020. Like I said, this has been a project in my head I've been wanting to do for so long, and I've had my battles with stress and anxiety, which I'll probably will talk about in a later episode. But in January, beginning the 6th, Season 2 of CupofCurious will begin. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because some people feel that the background music is a distraction from the actual podcast. If some of you recognize this beat, if you listen to my music, is because this is the instrumental I used for my song Maturity from my Ken project. And the original beat's called Black Spades, if you're interested. And just like Paramount, I'm listening to my audience. I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I am going to do the episodes without the music, and that's going to feel a little awkward for me, because as of right now, I'm just the one doing these podcasts. I'm really looking for guests to come on. I think I have my eye on at least 3 people that I want to do this with, but again, this is all God willing. So yeah, guys, the new season of CupofCurious in January, music will be gone just to see basically the listener's reaction. So, going back to finding out about the boy that got shot in the head, apparently, from what I'm reading in the most recent news, he's still in critical condition, and the shooter is still at large. And stuff like this is so heartbreaking, because, it's one thing when it happens to a grown person, but when it's a kid, man, that's our future. That's our tomorrow, and it breaks my heart sincerely to know that this is happening at a greater scale. What I mean is, like, it's happening more often. And then I know recently there was a shooting in a school in California. I think one person died in that shooting. It's crazy what's happening. And people don't want to take any kind of initiative with the guns. At least, like, we need stricter, is that a word? We need more strict gun laws, in my opinion, because it's getting crazy out there. I think people need to have, some kind of test to check out where their mental state is, their background check, their criminal background. I that stuff is important. But I think the reason that we're really not going to see that change is money. Because according to Forbes, the American gun business rakes in about $28 billion a year. Why would you want to control that? I mean, I'm thinking about it, through their perspective. Like, why in the world would we want to filter that kind of money flow? And I get it, because it goes back to what I said. It's not the gun, it's the people. So that's fine if you want to make your money selling firearms. No one can stop you. But we need stricter protocols in terms of who we sell to. As a real, thorough examination of the person. But we can cry out and cry out and cry out, but I don't know if we'll ever see a change in that. It's the same thing with, selling alcohol to minors or selling drugs to minors. Or again, going back to the homeless situation, we need housing for them. And I know we have people that could do something about it. And then, even if we don't have governing officials doing something, there's people within America. We have millionaires. We have multimillionaires in America. I know they hear what's happening around the world. And I can't tell nobody how to spend their money. But to me, it's like, if you are a person of position, power, and influence, and you have the bank account to back all that up, use that money that you've been blessed with. And I know people are gonna act like, oh, I work for this money and blah blah blah. God gave you the health and the mental health to do your job to get the money you have. That's another subject for another time. What I'm trying to get at is that if you have the money, help. Hear the cries of people, man. We're called as believers to help one another. And I imagine that also goes to believers who have, a blessed amount of wealth. Proverbs 11:25, it says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." And I know I'm not crazy when I say our communities, not just here in Philadelphia, but everywhere, we need that refreshment. We need to help one another. We need that generous person who has that God-given wealth to pour out and help. Not just when we want to be entertained, but when we are in need. Because again, I think it's amazing what they accomplished with this movie. And I think it's great, that I hope other companies, follow suit when they put out a film and people are going to criticize it, especially for good reason. I just wish it could happen outside of that, because at the end of the day, a movie's a movie. It's going to come out. It's going to make its movie. It's going to make its movie. It's going to make its money. It's going to go on digital and Blu-ray, whatever the case is, and that's it. Make a couple of merchandise, some dolls, toys, collectibles, whatever, and make have residual income. But in the situations that I've pointed out, it's an ongoing thing. And it's a serious matter. That's where we need those in position to hear us. That's when we need, as believers, to pray that God opens the ears and hearts of those who are in those positions. God, touch the millionaire. God, touch the person of influence. God, touch the person of power. Lord, if I had the money, I would do it myself, but I don't. So please let my voice be heard. Let our voice be heard. Because we need it, man. Like I said, it's beautiful, it's funny, it's great, but at the same time, it's sad and heartaching and disheartening and just disappointing. I don't know, guys. Am I overthinking it? Am I out of whack for comparing the Sonic movie whole debacle with what's happening in our culture and times now? Or am I onto something? You guys let me know. So, guys, I'm going to cap off the podcast here because it's 2:09 in the morning. So I need to get some sleep. But please, let me know your input. What do you guys think about this whole thing? Am I right or am I just overthinking? You can let me know, first and foremost, if you're watching this on YouTube in the comment section. You can let me know on Instagram at CupofCurious Podcast. I know the guy at the outro says CupofCurious, but it's actually CupofCurious Podcast on Instagram. Or you can be very formal and shoot me an email at CupofCurious@gmail.com. I just pretty much did this guy's job. I'm gonna let him, do his thing. But guys, I love you. God bless you. Who wants to see Sonic with me? Come on, we'll make it a big old thing and we'll have fun. Love y'all.
Thanks for listening to the show. Have a suggestion for the next episode? Want Will to answer a question? Want to recommend a drink or tell him to give the voiceover guy a pay raise? Then shoot an email at cupofcurious@gmail.com or slide in our DMs on Instagram at CupofCurious. Remember, stay thirsty and stay curious.
Gotta go fast.